So good morning, everyone. Today, I am very excited to have the opportunity to chat to Christian Pisano. Morning, Christian.
Good morning.
It's lovely to see you again. I haven't seen you in the flesh for a couple of years now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Last time I saw you were actually doing a workshop at Yogaloft.
Yeah. That's a long time ago, huh?
Yeah. I hope you can come to England again soon.
Yeah, I hope so too. Yeah.
So why don't we start by you telling people watching, tell us a little bit about yourself and your yoga journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. All right. Okay. You mean did I come to yoga? You mean?
Yeah. How did you start? What made you turn to yoga? How did it begin?
Well, you see, Simon, I would say that let's say one doesn't come to yoga, but yoga to come to oneself. And as a matter of fact, it's not even a matter of coming. It's just we are in a kind of perpetual yogic process, whether we know it or not. As soon as one is taking, his first breath outside the mother's womb, the inquiry is starting. So whether we know it or not, we're in this kind of process, yogic process, we can call it like that. In fact, that reminds me of a beautiful story in the Garba Upanishad. So the Upanishad of the Garba, which is the fetus. So you have this beautiful story, of course, we can't take it literally, of course. So it is said that, see, the fetus in the womb, of course, he has this kind of ocean feeling. So he has this ocean feeling, and he feels, somewhere, in the background, the pulsing heart of the mother with waves of love. So he's a kind of blissed out, with this ocean feeling. And suddenly, when he's few months old, see the totality of his life is revealed, that he's going to have outside the matrix.
Mm-hmm.
You see the totality of his life. You see the pain of the delivery, the trauma of being delivered, and then you see his life. You see his life with all the pain and all the suffering and all the contraction. You see, all the contraction as a separate entity, as a me. So you see all this, and then you see the fear of death and alienation. So you see all that, and you start to freak out because he's afraid of losing this ocean feeling, and this feeling to be separated from that love, So he starts to freak out, and in that freaking out, it is said that he's wandering in the matrix, in the womb, but wherever he goes, he doesn't find quietness. See, when he's close to the stomach, he's burned by the digestive fire. See, when he goes towards the kidney, it's too salty. When he's next to the liver, it's too bitter. When he's near the intestine, it stinks. So he can't find rest, and he goes around in matrix, which is quite a beautiful symbol. And so he starts to get desperate, and in that despair, he cries out to the Lord, which is quite also and beautiful. That is when you are very vulnerable and in total despair, that somewhere you have this cry who comes from your heart. And he said that the Lord gave him the Hamsa, the Swam mantra. He said to him, listen to the breath. Listen to the breath. So when you exhale, the sound sa. When you inhale, the sound ham, which is so hum, which means I am E. I am that consciousness. I am that awareness. You see? And he said, listen to the spontaneous mantra with the breath, who reminds you what you are, which is awareness. And then listen also to the space between the breath, where you can remind yourself as awareness. And that's what he does. And of course, he reminds himself that he is that awareness, that consciousness. He can't lose it. Okay? he will never lose that, because that's what he is. His nature is awareness, which is bringing us back to quietness. Now, what happened during the delivery, the trauma of delivery? He forget about all this, you see. And when he's expelled out of the matrix, the story says he cries out, because he has forgotten all this. See, he forget the mantra, he forget his awareness. So he forget the soham, and he cry, kwam, which means in Sanskrit, koam, who am I? You see? So in fact, so the story just to say that the process of life itself, see, is the inquiry in who am I, which is called, the Atma Vichara Yoga. It's somewhere we can't escape it. See, the contact with life, being alive, implies being conscious. And the question that arises with that consciousness and awareness.
To interrupt you just for a second, sorry, it's very interesting hearing what you're saying, because as we were chatting yesterday, you saw that I have a young son who is 2 going on 3.
Yeah.
It was very much resonating what you're saying with watching him as he separates from birth into the world, and he is discovering each day the separation from his mother.
Yeah.
And it creates pain for him, and also I watch him trying to find his own way in the world.
Yes.
So it resonates completely with what you're saying, but also what you did say, which was about the breathing, to bring him back to his own breathing, to help him be more connected, even at such a young age.
Yes. So you see, being alive is somewhere the yogic process, because somewhere the being alive triggered the questioning. In many ways, it reminds me also of a beautiful Tantra, which is called the Netra Tantra. Netra Tantra, which is the Tantra of the eye. So it is said that, of course, it's a dialogue between Shiva and Parvati, Shiva and Shakti. It is said that the dialogue is the dialogue of one's own self, one's own consciousness. And consciousness, our own consciousness, takes the expression of the question and the answer being both at the same time. Anyway, Parvati Devi goes to Shiva, and she's moved by the suffering of the world, And she asked him, is there a secret who could cure that suffering? Okay? So out of compassion, is there a secret who could cure all the suffering? And he said, the secret is already well settled in your heart. The secret is your own nature, is the nature, and is the nature of every human beings, every creatures. Okay? And at the end of the chapter, there's this beautiful statement which says, see, the whole universe is pervaded by the goddess of knowledge. So the whole universe is pervaded by knowledge and the goddess of yoga, which means that this is somewhere, which is very beautiful, which means that wherever we are, whatever we think, feel, or we do, we are in the process of inquiry, whether we know it or not. And you see, the totality of the universe is that process of recognizing oneself as awareness. Whether it's actualized or not in a so-called yoga practice, which is somewhere not important. See, I cannot escape, I cannot not be in the dance of Shiva, which is the dance.
So hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. Someone put a washing machine on in the background.
Yeah, of course. The reality calling you. Good.
So,
yeah. I was saying, you see, I can't not be in the dance of my own consciousness. And so the total expanse of consciousness limits itself to play a role that I call me, myself, and my existential configuration with full its implication It's the game that I'm playing first to get lost in the drama, and then to realize that nothing was lost. So somewhere the teaching, as far as my understanding is concerned, is in the drama. See that the teaching is that nothing is missing. I'm always full of myself as awareness. And to understand this in my guts, in my heart, I have to feel the lack. I have to feel the incompleteness. I have my karmic configuration to relationship, attachment, fear, pain, etc.
And also connected to what you were saying, if you're constantly in a state of inquiry, then it takes away the need to hold on and to be, because you know, you said humanity is in a state of constant suffering. It's because we're trying to control. But if you're in a state of inquiry, it's much more of a childlike state of mind where everything is inquisitive and you're asking and you're being curious.
Yeah, but Simon, the point is that whether you know it or not, you are in the inquiry. Whether you know it or not, of course, it takes after another expression. But whether you know it or not, you are inquiring about yourself, because that's the process of life, and because of suffering, and because of the intuition of death. So whether you know it or not, you are in this kind of, that's the inquiry. Being alive is the inquiry. And of course, one has to define what we mean by yoga too, and yogic practice. One has to define that, you see. As far as I'm concerned, you see, reality itself is the practice of yoga.
So how do you bring that sense of inquiry onto your yoga? It's obviously present in your everyday life, in one's everyday life, but bringing it to the yoga mat or into your yoga practice, how does that happen for you, or what are your thoughts on that?
You don't have to bring it in, because going to yoga mat is part of the inquiry. Going to the yoga mat and doing whatever you have to do as you practice is part of the inquiry. Going to the pub and getting drunk because of whatever reason is part of your inquiry. So you don't have to bring it in. Of course, after it's, I would say the expression tend to change. You see, it can get more actualized, but whatever you do, it's somewhere an expression of that inquiry, and an expression of, I would say, the sense of lack, that one is incomplete.
So in essence, are you saying that everything is pointless?
Not really. Not really, because you have to do it to understand that you don't need it. It is pointless. It is pointless when you have been, through the end of your desire about it. Then you understand that, okay, somewhere there is a space of you which is full and doesn't need anything. But it's not pointless because you need to do it. And when you do it, at the end of the doing whatever you are doing it, at the end of whatever your activity is, you understand it is pointless because you don't need it. But you see, you go through, you go through it. You see, that's the beauty of it.
So one of the texts that I really like to read is the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
And obviously in the Bhagavad Gita, it describes the whole process of spiritual awakening, almost with the kind of, almost like an instructional manual of how to spiritually awaken yourself, to take yourself to a more aware plane. Mm. But as one of the key texts, one of the key yoga texts, I suppose, how does that relate to the pointlessness of everything?
Well,
otherwise, why not just go to the pub?
Well, it's not that, because you see, you don't have the choice somewhere. Because you see, even if I said to you, okay, Simon, go to the pub and get drunk, you won't do it. You see what I mean? Because your inclination is somewhere else. See, and but for some people, it's a question of survival. They need to do that. And remember, you see the Bhagavad Gita, which is quite beautiful. It's happening on the battlefield. which is called in Sanskrit, as you know, the kshetra. And as a matter of fact, the body is also, say, one of the term to speak about the body is kshetra. The kshetra is also the field, but also the body, but as a field of awareness. But what's interesting, it happens on a battlefield. And you see, what's interesting is that the Kurukshetra, which is the field of the Kuru, where you are going to have this amazing fight, you know, I mean, and you can't find, I would say, a more dramatic situation than a battlefield, a war, because okay, you know, you are going to kill people, but certainly you are going to die. Certainly, it's maybe your last day. So you are going to have this, you know, this amazing, this contraction of a situation where you're going to have, you know, you're going to have, okay, scream, tears, cry, blood, you know what I mean? And this Kurukshetra becomes a Dharma Kshetra, the field where you are going to understand your Dharma. And of course, it is said symbolically that the body is the Kshetra, where you have this meeting of amazing polarities. You see, amazing contraction. And remember what Krishna said. He said to Arjuna, he said two beautiful things. He said, okay, first he said, one who recognize action and inaction, and inaction is a wise man. Then he said, Prakriti is doing the action, the fool think is the doer. And then he says something also beautiful, in all the field, which means in all the body, I am the knower of the field. So there's a kind of knowingness of that field, you know, the body as the field of awareness. So you see, the thing is that, so you speak about the Bhagavad Gita as a text, but you see, fundamentally, we're always in the text of consciousness, which is your reality, what you are living right now. See, your circumstances, your existential karmic configuration is your text. And of course, you have other texts like the Bhagavad Gita who can be very inspiring. And as you know, there is different reading of the text. You see, the Bhagavad Gita has been explained in the dual way, which is the Dvaita, in the Vishishta Dvaita, which is also the unity in differences, and Advaita non-dual. So you have different reading of the text according to where you are.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you see, it's quite interesting that it's in that battlefield that somewhere you are gonna, you know, that you are gonna somewhere meet your Dharma. I mean, the battlefield of your own life, you know.
Yes, so I mean, your point of realize, I suppose, you know, that it kind of connects to the saying that you live every day like it's your last, which
if it's possible, because
it's almost impossible until you actually face something such as your death for real.
For most of us, you see, it's like, okay, it sounds very nice, and you are right, living every day as it was my last, but it could become like a strategy. See, the thing is that it's much more important for me as my understanding, and especially where am I now at my process, is to understand the way I function.
The way you function.
Yeah, in a day-to-day basis, the way I function, not the way I should function, but the way I function. See, the fact, what is as I'm functioning. You see, my reaction towards the situation, my reaction towards the relationship, see, which puts you in a point of, I would say, you are open to your vulnerability, and you are willing, sorry the expression, to cut the spiritual bullshit.
And it comes back to being curious and being open to inquiring all the time. Because if you're in a state of self-judgment, as in I know I should be doing this, or I think I should be doing that, it takes you away from just being, oh, this is actually how I am. This is how I am in the situation.
You see, the good news is that your commentaries, your self-judgment is part of the process, because obviously you need to do it.
Yeah.
And okay, at one point one can realize, one can intuit that one doesn't have to judge oneself. But first, okay, you see that you are judging yourself, you are comparing yourself, you're in competition, you are, so, you know, you see all this, and you let room to all this. See the feeling, how do I feel when I judge myself? See, when I feel that I'm not worthy. You see, so that's the feeling. It's not in intellectual way, but emotionally. And now this emotion are somatized. See, they take life in my body itself. See, so you have this, the process is always open. And nothing goes against the process. As a matter of fact, all the resistance is part of the process too. Because see, the space in my own consciousness is wide open. And there's no way you can miss the train, never. Because every moment you have the opportunity to recognize oneself as awareness. To recognize oneself as awareness, you have to go into the tranche of your life. You see? That's it. Which then goes back to the question, okay, well, see how we define yogic practice, you see? See, what is the practice of yoga? Which it could be interesting. And in fact, if you see the history of yoga, it's the history of different definition at different time. And sometimes it's very contradictory.
So maybe your yoga practice is essentially taking us back to the womb.
Well, even beyond the womb, because you see, as a matter of fact, you know, you just recognize first, I would not say that I'm practicing, but I'm being practiced.
You're being practiced.
Being practiced by the process of life. And in fact, my life, I mean, my situation as Christian is the practice, you see. I'm being practiced by all this. And my own consciousness, in fact, express itself in that process of Christian. You see. And then, of course, because of your inclination, you are going to go towards some practices. You see, different practices, whatever it is, doesn't matter. But it's your inclination of your heart who goes toward different practices, because it expresses itself, you are somewhere, it will express itself in the inclination of your heart to recognize yourself as awareness. I see. So it's more the recognition of oneself as awareness, the recognition of oneself as what you are really. But to recognize that, you have to understand what you are not. And then it expresses itself in 1,000 ways. It's 1,000 of practices, 1,000 of expression, 1,000 of feelings. Yes.
So that's quite I mean, what you said about being, what did you say? Being the practice I am doing, the practice I am being practiced.
Exactly. I'm being practiced by the process of life.
So that's quite a paradigm shift for the vast majority of people.
Yes, it is.
Is that awareness? No, it's not an awareness. It's a wider sphere of thinking. Does that for you? Does that come from the many hours of asana practice, or is it from study, or is it from meditation, or is it a combination, or it's just thinking?
Well, it doesn't come from all that. It's just an intuition.
Intuition.
The intuition expresses itself the way it has to express. I can't say that because I've been practicing, I've been doing that. No, because that will be a kind of you are putting in the picture a causal relationship, which is and consciousness is never an effect of any activities. And it's more the intuition And of course, whatever you do in your life, participate towards an intuition that your life itself, you see, as Simon or as Christian or whoever, is the practice itself of consciousness expressing itself in a limited story. In a limited story, because you say, I want somewhere to experience the whole drama. It's like, okay, you go to see a beautiful movie, you go to see a beautiful play, a theater play. Somewhere you go to see a drama. And somewhere you enjoy the drama, and you see at the end of the drama, when the curtain falls, see all the actors, they come forward, and everybody is applauding everyone, whatever role they're playing in the play. So you see, somewhere I limit myself in that story that I call me, because somewhere I want to experience the whole gamut of the drama. And in that experiencing the drama, which can somewhere be dramatic, of course, it can take the expression of a yogic practice. It can, or not, but it can. According to the inclination of one's heart, there's no obligation, there are no rules. As it is said, beautiful Tantra, Malini Vijayo Tara Tantra, nothing to prescribe, nothing to forbid. So you see, the process is wide open, always open.
So essentially, it's about delimiting delimiting it and opening it wide so that you're stepping through your own contracted consciousness. In a way, what I was thinking earlier is about what's it like to be unconscious, completely unconscious. In a way, being completely unconscious is a higher form of consciousness.
Yes, that's right, yes. I agree. As a matter of fact, we experience that every night in the deep sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
But for most of us, it's unconsciousness, but in the yogic tradition, it's awareness which is not understood. Because obviously consciousness can never be unconscious. See, you have different states. You have the waking state, which is a state of consciousness. You have the state of the dream state, which is another state of consciousness. So when the dream state vanishes, you go into, when the waking state vanishes, you go into the dream state. When the dream state finishes, you go into the deep sleep state. All these are states which are appearing and disappearing on the stage of awareness. You see? So even the perception of the world is a state of consciousness. And it's true that every night we enjoy the deep sleep because somewhere we go back to the absence of definition, which for most of us, it's an unconscious state. But see, according to yogic tradition and some tradition, it's the awareness without object, which is for most of us, it's quite hard to understand.
Would you say that's a similar state that one achieves or can achieve or attempts to achieve in a deep state of meditation?
Yeah, you could say that, but you see, when in your sentences, it's good sometimes, if I may so say, it's good sometimes to define our words, the way we use it. You see, you say, achieve meditation, deep state of meditation, and try to achieve. For me, the way I understand meditation in my limited understanding is not a question of achieving. See, it's not a question of achieving, because once again, one has to define what meditation is. Meditation is the natural state, which cannot be objectified by an experience. So you can't achieve that.
Well, wouldn't you say achieving, I mean, I'm using the word achieving, but essentially it's being in a state of connectedness, it's being in a state where your subconscious chat is quiet and you can actually hear, you become able to hear the universe more.
Yeah, exactly. I understand what
you're listening. It's more of a listening, deep listening.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right. Deep listening. But you see, this deep listening, somewhere, you see, you are available to understand your already interconnectedness. So you don't have to connect yourself. You are connected to everything. The thing is that most of the time, I have this assumption of my separation. And you see, the thing is that sometimes I can intuit, for whatever reason, the current of empathy and my somewhere that I'm not separate from anything, I'm interconnected to everything. And it's true that sometimes there's a kind of, you see, the quieting of the chattering mind, you see, and then yes, something is emerging. But you see, when I say that, straight away the mind say, okay, what I have to do to quieten the chattering mind, which is the chattering mind is the mean to quieten the mind itself. See, because otherwise you are going to say, you are going to be in a position, I have to quieten my mind, which is some yogic tradition really explore that, how to quieten the mind. See, there's another, I would say, another exploration, which is the chattering mind is the quietening itself, because you see, every source of thought and every destination of thought is the background of awareness. As a matter of the waves, see, that thinking process is a wave, and the wave is the ocean. It's never separate from the ocean. And of course, it's true that sometimes the chattering mind can be so big that it can become, right, wow, you just freak out, and you can become obsessional, and you can, of course. But all this is part of the game. See, most of the time when we do understand practice, we are eager to have a kind of some pills, understand technique or means to get out of my desperation. You see? So it's good to understand that whatever I'm going through is somewhere the teaching. And of course, this doesn't mean that, okay, I'm not going to practice, I'm not going to go to my mat, whatever. You see, but you have first this understanding that I would say that's, and of course, up to the inclination of your heart to explore whatever you want to explore, to the different techniques. But you see, the techniques are just means, they are just a pretext. And somewhere they don't lead you anywhere. See, because as I told you, say that, see, consciousness is not an effect of any practice or any activities. It pre-exists the activities. And the beauty of it is that, okay, your life itself, without changing anything, your life itself is the opportunity to recognize yourself as awareness. See, to recognize yourself. But then, okay, this recognition goes through the limitation of Simon or Christian. And that's it. But before going ahead, I would just point out that, you see, frankly, I'm not understanding what I'm talking about. Let's be clear. See,
you just reminded me of the time I came to you in the class, end of the class, and I said, Christian, I've been reading your book. I've been trying to understand what it says and finding it pretty complicated. And you said to me, I don't understand my book either.
Exactly, yes. Yeah, absolutely. And because the person who is listening to me, the person who will listen to me will maybe think that I am in a different state that he is, or maybe I'm more clear or less confused, which is not the case at all. See, I don't really understand what I'm speaking about. I don't. And I'm in the same process that everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And, as a matter of fact, there's a beautiful Upanishad, which very short, called the Kena Upanishad. And at the beginning, it says, beautiful, it says, the I doesn't go there. The I doesn't go there. the speech doesn't go there, the mind doesn't go there. So you see, the eye, the speech, the mind doesn't go there. I can't understand that we say that essence. So, and then they say, we don't know about that ultimate reality. We don't. And we don't know how to teach it. See, it's a beautiful statement.
Mm-hmm. And maybe when you say the I doesn't go there, you mean the I doesn't go there as well.
Well, the I, I mean, the I depends the way you use the I, because as a matter of fact, the I is the space of the heart, and the I is that ocean of awareness. See, before say, I am Simon, or I am Christian, you have I amness and I, which is not limited by a form. But once again, when I say that, you see, it's beautiful intellectually. You say, okay, it's fine. But then you see, in my daily life, what I experience most of the time is the separation. See, as Christian, sometimes completely freaking out and, doing what he has to do, in attachment, in fear, whatever. And the process of that is somewhere to make me understand where exactly my understanding is, where so sometimes I have my expression in English, you see, exactly where I am. That's it. Because, of course, conceptually, intellectually, it's nice and you can play with all that, it's great. But you see, my emotional reality is sometimes in a complete contradiction with my intellectual understanding.
Absolutely, yeah. So basically what you're saying is you understand so much, we've read, we've studied, we've done all this, but I'm still in some kind of pain.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly, yeah, absolutely.
And the pain is distracting, and the pain is there, and the pain is in the way, but actually the pain is what is.
Yeah. So the pain is not distracting. And what else did you say? The pain gets in the way.
And it's consuming.
Yeah, the pain is you say the pain is distracting, the pain gets in the way. As a matter of fact, not. The pain is not in the way, the pain is not distracting, it's the ultimate teaching.
That is it, isn't it?
The ultimate teaching, the teaching is there. What you feel is the teaching. So somewhere you reach, well, that has been my process, and especially for the last few years, you reach a place of really deep vulnerability.
Yeah, because I think if you're able to, in a way, if you're able to hold your pain as you would hold a crying baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you are in touch with.
Yeah, exactly right. It's a beautiful image. Yes, as you hold a baby, you embrace your pain. Exactly, that's it. Yeah.
Because we run from our pain. We do anything. We go to the pub. When actually your pain is crying out, right. As the baby, hold me close, just listen to me, and the pain dissipates.
Yeah, exactly.
And then
which most of us we are not able for many reasons to do that. Yes, but you're right. Yes, exactly.
And it's interesting that you talked about separation, which I guess again comes back to the pain. First of all, we separate from our pain by not wanting to listen to it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's the human condition, as opposed to animals, because we've become separated from our animal nature through intellectual thought, that actually, whilst at one point we have this wisdom, we can invent computers and mobile phones and flying cars, but at the same time we're totally separate and becoming more and more separate from the earth and from the universe. Obviously we cannot totally separate because we are part of it. but energetically or psychologically, we have separated ourselves, and it's caused us so much pain that we're trying to kill ourselves, we're trying to destroy ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, you can say that, but I see it as part of the game. Yeah, there's this beautiful also beautiful story in the Mahabharata. In fact, it's before when the play of dice. You know, at one point there's going to be a play of dice, and Yudhishthira is challenged by a professional player. In fact, it's challenged by the family because you see, so Yudhishthira likes to play, and because he's challenged and he can't say no. And at the end of this play of dice, they lose everything. So they lose the kingdom, they lose everything, and they are forced in exile for 12 years. And the 13 years, they have to hide themselves. And if they are recognized as the princes, as the prince, once again, 12 years again. So the third year, everybody's looking for them. And they do function which are completely against the Dharma. It's like, you know, Arjuna, the amazing warrior, becomes a eunuch and teach dances as a transsexual. It's quite something, you know, he was a warrior. And they have all, you know, Draupadi becomes like a maid. Anyway, at the end of this play of dice, at the end of this exile, the result, the conclusion, it's going to be the war in the Bhagavad Gita, a terrible war where, you know, this a race will be killed. So before the play of dice, Krishna comes to see Bhishma, and he said to him, whatever happens tomorrow, do not interfere. And Bhishma said to him, it's quite a relevant question, is it not better to avoid the worst? See, that's the question I say in my life. It's not better to avoid the worst. And Krishna said to him, what is the worst? And of course, he has this beautiful, Bhishma has this beautiful answer, a traditional answer. He said, the worst is the loss of Dharma, which is the loss of the order. So in my little life is the same. Is it possible to avoid the worst, to keep the Dharma, my little order? So Krishna has this beautiful answer, beautiful, very scary. And if the worst has to happen, to keep the Dharma.
If the worst is to happen, you would...
Yeah, to keep the Dharma.
Keep the Dharma.
Yeah, because Bhishma said, is it not better to avoid the worst? Yeah? And Krishna said, why? Why to keep the Dharma? And he said to him, the other point of view. And if the worst has to happen, to keep the Dharma.
Essentially saying the status quo.
Yeah, no, he said whatever happens, whatever happens, whether it's the worst, the better, whatever happens, even the worst, is somewhere for my understanding. Which can be a way, we can of course trigger a very dramatic situation, but I'm never, whatever is the situation, I'm never away from my self-teaching as to imply another word, I would say the guru principle, which is my innate pedagogy. See, whatever situation, and some situation can be really dramatic, but whatever the situation is always an opportunity, whether I understand it or not.
Very interesting. You're in your studio there, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm upstairs. You came to me.
I remember coming to spend basically as a complete beginner, I think.
Yeah, so the studio is downstairs, and I live here.
I remember coming. Susanna brought me to a weekend teachers workshop.
All right.
And I was a beginner, and I just remember basically hanging from the wall, and bound, blindfolded for what felt like the whole weekend.
All right. Yes.
You took lovely care of me, and it was an amazing experience. I would like to return someday.
You were always welcome.
I think that's great, Christian. I really appreciate talking to you. I think that's probably long enough. I'm sure we could go all day long, but
We
it's
can,
been,
if you want, you can finish. If you have, it's up to you.
I mean, I think maybe we could do it again sometime soon.
Ah, yeah, with pleasure. Absolutely, whenever you want.
Thank you very much. Beautiful, lovely experience, very educational. I very much enjoyed talking to you.
Yes, and thanks for your invitation.
So, Bear, when are you going to come? When are you going to come to Yogaloft and do a workshop with us? When you
Yeah.
can travel?
Yeah, I don't know where I could come, but see, what I'm going to try to do now is to reduce my teaching. See, to reduce, but I will come when I can. I will come. Yes, with pleasure. Yes.
And I'll definitely try and come and visit you.
Pardon?
I said we'll definitely try and come and visit you.
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
We'll try and come to France to visit you as well.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, you see, the thing is that, Simon, the thing is that you come in touch with people, and you have this, I would say, what I call the community of the heart, which is not part of any association, any whatever, it's this feeling of the heart. And then you see the people, whether you see them or not, in the end, it doesn't matter. They are always in your heart, and that's it. And then, okay, you go on with one's life and you do whatever you have to do. And sometimes you see people, sometimes you don't see them.
Actually, Christian, I had one more question. This might sound slightly random.
Yeah.
And it might be completely it might be completely random, but I wanted to ask you about your relationship to food.
My relationship to food. Okay, all right, okay.
Maybe you like hamburgers. But I noticed I think last time I was with you in France, I think we maybe went to the supermarket together, and I remember being struck. I think you just bought some fruit or something, but I remember being struck by something about the relationship with food. So I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, good. All right. Okay. My relationship with food has always been obsessional.
Okay.
You see, actually, I'm still on the very same diet, which is kind of strict vegan, mostly raw, and sometimes cooked food. But nevertheless, my relationship with food has always been obsessional. Which is somewhere, and I've been through a period which was much more, I would say, obvious. I eat, you eat sometimes in a compulsory way, an obsessional way, to once again to ease the pain. You see what I mean? So the thing is that it's quite interesting because I can see that I'm addicted in so many ways. See, I've been addicted to my yoga practice. I've been addicted to many things, to the food, to whatever, relationship. So I say that to you because otherwise I could answer theoretically about the question about, okay, vegan, not this, not that, but it's not the main point.
I think that's a very honest. I think that's a very honest. I like your answer that you're addicted to those things, as am I. I wasn't really so much asking whether you're a vegan or a vegetarian, although that is interesting in itself. I think I was asking more about what does food mean to you? Does it mean something to you other than something just to nourish the body?
It means pleasure and comfort.
Pleasure and comfort.
Yes, once again, it's my emotional understanding. See, but in fact, food basically, well, once again, in the yogic tradition, is for the Annamaya kosha. See the sheet of food. And in fact, you see, you take the food, which is a beautiful, I would say, a beautiful ritual. You take the food as an oblation to the senses and the Jataragni. And then you have this amazing alchemy which is what you eat, transform itself in your form, the cells, the organs, the bloods, whatever. So, but most of the time, my understanding of food is, voilà, I just want some pleasure and comfort. And that's why for me, to be strict in the food is very important. It's very important because otherwise, I always forget about it. I fast 1 day a week. Every year I do long fast because my nature is kappa. I become heavy very quick. So I tend to overeat, it makes me heavy and depressed. I know that very well.
Okay.
So knowing that, I say, all right, and especially, it's also related to practice. Yeah, it's better for me to have a certain type of food, which doesn't mean that I still somewhere resolve, don't like the term, my emotional link with food. Which I mean, when I say emotional link, it's, I would say the dysfunction somewhere. Say like, okay, you feel empty, you want to eat, which is the case for a lot of people.
When you say you fast, do you fast for 24 hours?
Yeah, 1 day a week I fast.
24 hours.
24 hours, yeah, a bit more, 24 hours, nothing, not even water, nothing, which is very good for me. Makes me light.
Okay. And how do you get your protein from beans and nuts and seeds and legumes?
I don't really care about that.
I don't really care either. I'm also don't really care about protein. I don't feel the lack, do you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, somewhere, Simon, the lack has always been present in my life. And whatever I've been doing, even my yogic trip has been somewhere to fulfill that lack, which I didn't succeed, you know what I mean?
Okay, Christian, thanks so much. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I love talking to you.
Let's do that another time. Yes.
Okay, sure thing. Keep well.
You too. Bye, Simon.
Bye, Christian.